The beginning, a dreamer in Texas. Before the tattoos, before the fame, before the platinum records, there was Austin Richard Post, a kid from Grapevine, Texas, who loved playing guitar and dreamed of making something real. His dad, a DJ, filled the house with music, everything from rock and metal to hip-hop and country. And that blend of sounds, it shaped Posty's soul before the world even knew his name. He learned guitar by watching Guitar Hero videos on YouTube. No fancy lessons, no expensive studios, just a passion to create something that felt true. By the time he was 16, he recorded his first mixtape, Young and After Them Riches. He wasn't rich, not even close, but the title said everything about his mindset, the struggle before the spotlight. After high school, Post moved to Los Angeles with his best friend, hoping to chase the dream. They shared small apartments, sleeping on floors, eating cheap noodles, recording songs late into the night. He joined a collective called BLCKVRD, where he met people who believed in his sound, a mix of hip-hop, rock, and soul. It wasn't mainstream, but it was real. In 2015, he uploaded a song called White Iverson. He didn't think much of it, just another upload, but within weeks it exploded. Millions of views. Everyone wanted to know, who is Post Malone? From SoundCloud to Superstardom, White Iverson changed everything. Suddenly, labels were calling, and Post went from unknown to unstoppable. He signed with Republic Records, and soon came his debut album, Stony. Hits like Congratulations, Go Flex, and I Fall Apart made him a household name. But what made Post different was his authenticity. He wasn't trying to fit into a box. He sang about heartbreak, anxiety, fame, and failure. With raw emotion, he didn't look or sound like anyone else. And that's exactly why millions connected with him. Love, loss, and loneliness. Behind the tattoos and parties, Post was fighting his own battles. The fame brought pressure, the attention, the headlines. They all came fast. He's spoken openly about struggling with mental health, anxiety, and alcohol use. He once said, "It's hard to be happy when you're always on the move." His long-time relationships came and went, and he found himself dealing with heartbreak under the public eye. But through it all, he kept making music, not for fame, but as therapy. Songs like Circles, Goodbyes, and Stay showed his vulnerability, the softer, more human side of a man people thought they already knew. Reinvention and resilience. Post Malone didn't stop evolving. In 2019, his album, Hollywood's Bleeding, broke records and defined a generation. He blurred genres again, mixing hip-hop, pop, and rock into something completely his own. Sunflower with Sway Lee became one of the biggest hits of the decade. But even with success, Post remained grounded. He didn't move like a superstar. He moved like a guy from Texas who still couldn't believe all this was real. A new chapter, love, fatherhood, and growth. In 2022, everything changed. Post became a father. And in interviews, he said that it made him rethink everything. Fame, health, even happiness. He started focusing more on family, slowing down his drinking, and building a life beyond music. His recent albums like 12 Carat Toothache and Austin show a more mature side. The pain is still there, but it's balanced with hope. A man who's finally starting to find peace in his chaos. Act 7, the rock star who never forgot his roots. Post Malone is now one of the most streamed artists on the planet. Sold-out tours, Grammy nominations, global fame. But he still drinks Bud Light with fans after shows. Still cracks self-deprecating jokes. Still signs guitars for kids who remind him of himself. He's living proof that being authentic is more powerful than being perfect. Legacy in the making. Post Malone isn't just an artist. He's a symbol of the modern era, where you don't have to fit the mold to make history. He showed the world that it's okay to feel broken, to be different, to fail publicly. As long as you keep creating, keep moving, and keep believing. From a Texas kid with a dream to one of the biggest names in music, this is the story of Post Malone, the misfit who turned pain into poetry and sound into soul. And maybe that's the real secret to success. Not fame, not money, but staying true even when the world tells you to change. The sound that changed a generation. Post Malone's music doesn't fit a single genre, and that's his secret weapon. He doesn't chase trends, he creates them. From the haunting melody of I Fall Apart to the carefree vibes of Better Now, Post has built a sound that connects to every kind of listener. His songs live in that gray space between sadness and celebration, where joy and pain exist together. He once said in an interview, "Music should make you feel something. Good or bad, it just has to move you." And that's exactly what he does. Even artists like Ozzy Osbourne, Doja Cat, The Weeknd, and 21 Savage have collaborated with him. Because Post's sound breaks boundaries. He's the bridge between generations. The kid who grew up on rock and made it cool again for a new era. Fame, the double-edged sword. Fame gave Post everything he dreamed of. Success, recognition, money. But it also brought something else. Pressure. The pressure to stay relevant, to keep topping charts, to be the fun guy fans expect, even when he's exhausted inside. There were nights he'd perform for tens of thousands, then go home and sit in silence, just trying to feel normal again. He admitted in interviews that at times, fame made him feel empty. But through those dark moments came his most honest work, songs like Morning and Chemical, which peel back the curtain on the cost of success. Because the truth is, Post Malone isn't trying to be perfect. He's trying to be real. And in a world of filters and fakeness, that makes him rare. The man behind the music. Away from the spotlight, Post is surprisingly low-key. He spends time at his ranch in Utah, growing vegetables, riding ATVs, and raising his daughter. He once said that being a dad gave him a reason to wake up every morning and do better. And you can hear that change in his music. Softer tones, more reflection, and a new kind of hope. He still loves gaming, still writes late into the night, and still keeps that goofy smile that made fans fall in love with him in the first place. Because behind the tattoos and fame, he's still Austin from Texas. The same kid who wanted to make something real. Legacy and what's next. So what's next for Post Malone? More albums? More hits? Maybe. But if you listen closely to his recent interviews, you'll hear a man more focused on meaning than numbers. He's talked about wanting to create a timeless record, something that will still make people feel 50 years from now. He's also hinted at exploring country music, his first love, blending it with the emotional honesty he's known for. But whether he's rapping, singing, or strumming a guitar, Post Malone's impact is already cemented. He gave voice to a generation that's both hopeful and heartbroken, a generation that dances through the pain and finds beauty in the chaos. The final reflection. Post Malone once said, "I don't want to be remembered for how many records I sold. I want to be remembered for making people feel something." And that's exactly what he's done. He made people feel seen, heard, and understood, even in their lowest moments. His music reminds us that it's okay to hurt. It's okay to be unsure. Because healing isn't a straight line. It's a melody that keeps evolving. From a broke teenager with a dream to one of the most streamed artists in history, Post Malone proved that you don't need perfection to make magic. You just need honesty. So as we look at his journey, from grapevine to global stages, one thing is clear. Post Malone isn't just a musician, he's a movement. A reminder that no matter who you are, where you come from, or what you've lost, your story can still become something beautiful.